Welcome back to Deadline Day here on Sky Sports News. Delighted to say we're now joined by entrepreneur, star of Dragon's Den, host of the most downloaded podcast in Europe, The Diary of a CEO, and huge Manchester United fan as well, Steven Bartlett. Steven, thank you very much for joining us here on Deadline Day, a day which really combines two of your big passions, football and business. When you watch, are you looking at a football perspective or business perspective more?
It's always both. I'm fascinated by the speed in which lawyers can behave when they're up against the clock, because that's not the experience I've had in the world of business. But at the same time, as a Manchester United fan, I'm following minute by minute as the rumours are becoming reality. So, yeah, it's one of my favourite days in the football calendar.
Actually, how it represents business in, let's say, real life, Steven. We know that football might not be too representative before, but does it go down to the wire like this in traditional businesses?
It does, and I think this is actually the day where you see what the model in the sort of industry of football can often be like. I think we often think of it as being this incredibly well-run, well-organised, well-thought-through, well-considered industry, but you can see on this day, because you get that window into the behind the scenes, the rumours are a little bit closer to reality. You can see how scrappy and last minute and all over the place it is. And having sat and spoke to some managers from the world of football on my podcast, I often hear how, as a fan, I assume that there's this huge, preparative process and there's months and months of studying. Sometimes it's a WhatsApp message. Sometimes it's a text message saying, this person's available. Are you interested? They watch a couple of clips. They say, we'll give him a shot. Have we got any information on him? No, we haven't, because it's deadline day. And then it comes down to instinct. And a lot of business is instinct, it's gut feelings and it's emotions. So, yeah, this is certainly all of that today.
As I said, you're a big Manchester United fan. We know that from the podcast. This window, Wout Weghorst has come in to help fill that gap left by Cristiano Ronaldo. Jack Butland in as well. Overall, what do you make of business so far?
I am extremely happy with where Manchester United are in terms of how we're playing on the pitch under Erik ten Hag. I've got that spark back. And I think, judging by my Manchester United group chats, we feel a sense of optimism and like we're going in the right direction. And as fans, that's really what we've always wanted. We've wanted that feeling of going in the right direction, of momentum. Now, there is something going on with the ownership, and we're hearing this mid-February deadline for the sale of the club. I hope that is the case. And I'm watching that very intently. As it relates to Wout, I think it's a little bit early to give a verdict on him. But the most important thing, as a armchair fan, is I trust Erik ten Hag. And I trust his decisions. He won't get them all right. Again, I've sat here with managers. I've sat here with 5 former Manchester United players, and they talk to me. It's you never get it right. Same in business. You never get hiring right. No matter how many people you've hired, and I've hired thousands, you still make mistakes. But overall, I trust Erik ten Hag and his team's recruitment process. And this is the most optimistic I've felt about Manchester United, I think, in a decade, at least since Sir Alex Ferguson departed.
Going back to Manchester United, Christian Eriksen, injury news today. Do you expect them to go for another midfielder, do you think?
Yeah, well, I'm hearing a lot of reports and I'm hearing a few whispers from certain people that we have potentially a replacement coming in from Bayern Munich. Marcel, I think you guys have reported on that as well. So, I mean, if you've got any more information on that, us Man United fans would love to know. Is it going to happen? How much? How quickly can we get him over to the UK? I know you've got the inside scoop, so I'm turning the question back on you in a typical podcast host fashion. Is Marcel coming to Manchester United?
Well, that is the question that Manchester United fans want to know. The latest we know is that there is certainly interest. We talked to our colleagues in Sky in Germany, Marcel Sabitzer, but also that could be good news about Enzo Fernandez, because if Chelsea get that deal over the line, they won't rival Manchester United for that potential signing of Sabitzer. So keep your fingers crossed, Steven, because that could happen as well. We know that the club is up for sale. Now, let's say Erik ten Hag comes into the den. He pleads you to put X million pounds down as part of a consortium bid. You tempted?
100%. 100%. I would love to invest in Manchester United, and I would certainly be much more inclined to do so, as I think a lot of investors would, if we really had faith and trust in the ownership structure, and if we had a long-term vision to develop the club from the grassroots and also the stadium and the infrastructure that was sustainable, optimistic, but most importantly ambitious, because that is Manchester United DNA. I've supported Manchester United since I was a kid. Half my immediate family were born in Manchester, although I don't have the accent. and it runs through my veins. So I'm up there this week. I go to the away games as well. So I'd certainly love to invest in the club if I really believed in the project. And under Erik ten Hag, I'm much more likely to do that because he's proven to be so far a really capable, really ambitious, really non-negotiable manager. And that's what I like to see.
Stephen, let's talk about the podcast then. Diary of a CEO, been a huge success. You've had the likes of Neville and Carragher. Recently, Jesse Lingard, David Moyes as well. Having watched these people from the outside growing up, what's been perhaps the biggest thing that you've learnt collectively from these interviews?
I've got to say it's the human side of things. It's hearing that David Moyes on the weekend after a defeat is incredibly down about it. You know, one of the notes that I had before the interview was that he used to sit in a dark room alone the day after the defeat, and it was just an awful time. And then obviously in the case of Jesse Lingard, this is an individual who struggled a lot with severe issues in his own home, his mother's depression, the abuse from the outside world, and the toll that had on him, but also the impact it had on his game is a dimension of these individuals that you don't get to hear. That human, look, I'm not saying we have to necessarily all feel sorry for these individuals. They are paid exceptionally well. They know what they're getting into. It's not a surprise. But just getting a window into that human side of things has certainly changed my perspective and made me act in a different, slightly more empathetic way, I think.
Literally 30 seconds. I want to know, who is your dream football guest for the podcast?
Oh, that's a great question. Sir Alex Ferguson, Richard Arnold, who's the CEO of Manchester United. Let's go for Cristiano Ronaldo. I'm not so happy with Cristiano at the moment, but I'd love to have him on.